Let me ask you one of the hardest questions that I was asked and I didn't know how to answer. I'm going to put you in the hot seat.
Oh, yeah.
How does the church choose which of the policies, the changes, the world changes to accept and adopt into the church and which ones not to? That issue that I'm discussing is ordination. I'm going to go back to something that you mentioned earlier regarding the culture and the dynamics of the environment and what's happening relevant in the culture, specific to the times. This is probably the most widely discussed issues when it comes to church and policy and beliefs. And I say that from a position of being a Sabbath school teacher and having teens and young adults. They too have found this to be such a profound issue, so much so that they're asking for a special forum where they can discuss and share and express how they feel and how it affects them specifically. That issue that I'm discussing is ordination. Where do we go with that as a church? Do we have a particular stance? Share, please.
You know, this has been a widely discussed topic. Some years ago, actually before the 2015 General Conference session, which took place in San Antonio, a commission was established that every one of the 13 world divisions would study this issue from a biblical perspective. They went back to the Bible, they went back to the counsel given in the spirit of prophecy. A separate study was done by every world division. So very, very careful thought was given to this. There were representatives from all across the world in each of those divisions that studied this, and then a document was submitted. The reality was that when all 13 documents came together and they were reviewed by the leadership of the General Conference. Now, when I say leadership, that's all the presidents and officers of each of the 13 world divisions. When they reviewed these documents and studied these documents, they realized there was not a clear answer on whether this was a right thing to do or a wrong thing to do from either the biblical standpoint or from the counsel that was given in the spirit of prophecy. As far as what is an ordained minister is very clearly spelled out in the church manual.
And what does it say?
And the church manual basically says that, you know, an ordained minister is one who is selected by the local conference and called out for a specific sacred purpose, placing God's mantle of blessing upon an individual who has been called for full-time ministry in the gospel message. The issue that comes into play was, do we allow a variance or not? As I mentioned earlier in the church manual, there are some variances given, but they are very specific on when those variances are allowed. And every church manual cannot be changed by a local church. It must be made as a representative body by the world church. Yeah, the input comes in from the local church and the local conference and the union conference and the division, but when they realized that there was not a clear answer, there was a specific request that was developed by the North American Division. That came to the annual council, and the annual council in 2014, it was, said, well, you know, if we're going to allow a variance on this, we're going to have to let the church decide. Can every division make their decision on the ordination of women to the gospel ministry?
So not the local church, though? The local churches couldn't make that decision?
No, no.